Thank you. So there's a small change in the opening words. The article that I had originally intended to read a portion of, I ended up using in my sermon. So, a different offering for you this morning. This is a short reading called For All the Mothers by Reverend Linda Susan Ulrich. For all the mothers and mother figures, the grandmothers, aunts, and extended family members who mother, the soon-to-be mothers, the wish they were mothers, the never wanted to be mothers, the it's complicated mothers, the birth mothers, foster mothers, adoptive mothers, stepmothers, the used-to-be dad mothers, and the more than one mom mothers, the single mothers, separated mothers, stay-at-home mothers, unhoused mothers, the grieving mothers, and those who are grieving their own mothers, and those whose grief is complex. For all the communities that mother, and for all who depend on the great mother, you are held and beloved. I invite you to join in singing this morning our opening hymn. It's We Laugh, We Cry, number 354, in our gray hymnal.
We
may remain standing for our unison affirmation printed in your order of worship. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you. Annie, I'm going to ask you for some help because I walked out of my office without an important handwritten notice that I think is on my desk. Yay, team. This is what we do. So I am Deb Weiner. I'm the Interim Director of Religious Education here at First Parish, and I am delighted to welcome you all on this kind of rainy spring day, but it's supposed to get better a little later, which is great. We welcome you just as you are, whatever is going on that is well or not so well in your life today. We're glad that you came in our door. Many among this congregation are off in Saco, Maine at Ferry Beach, and others, bless you, and others are in Dorchester at the Mother's Day Walk for Peace. But we are glad that you are here with us here at First Parish, where we celebrate the many diversities among us, whether you call yourself a parent or not a parent, no matter your age, race, class, varying abilities, and other ways that people may identify you or us. We are so glad that you are here. So following this service, I hope that you will join us through these doors in the common room for some sociability, some coffee, and other treats. You can also stop by the welcome table on your way if you'd like to find out more about this congregation and also tell us more about you. And you can fill out the blue connection card that you should find in the pew rack in front of you if you'd like to stay in touch with us and tell us more about what's going on with you in your life. Now, in the back of your order of service, I'd like to call your attention to the announcements and to the calendar section. But I want to preview a couple of things. Next Sunday, first of all, do not miss worship, because it is our annual Coming of Age service, and we will be honoring 4 wonderful Coming of Age youth as they make their passage into the next phase of their lives. Children in grades 4 and up are encouraged to be in that service. There will be religious education programming for those in grade, did I say age 4? I meant grade 4. For children and youth in grades 3 and under, there will be religious education programming next week. Bring tissues to that service. A special announcement about these plants that are here in front of us, which have little chicks as well. These are given by the organizers of the plant fair in honor of the birth of Jesse Lines, son of this congregation's former parish minister, Megan Lines. Yeah. Jesse was born on Friday in Concord, and he is gorgeous. And mother and son are doing very well. They're going home today. So what a happy Mother's Day for Megan, huh? And to all of you who are mothers or who love one in your life as well. And about that plant fair. So here's what they asked me to read, their words, not mine. Okay, you didn't get organized for Ferry Beach. You missed the NPR Mother's Day flower sale. You left your wallet at home. And you're visiting mom for the afternoon empty-handed. Clearly, you're a loser. But we are prepared to take a chance on you. Leave with a plant and leave your IOU at the plant fair table in the common room today. You can pay the cashiers at the fair on Saturday, May 18th. Yep, that's next Saturday. Y'all come. Signed, Love, the Plant Fair and Craft Committee. Go visit and see what they've got. They've got some fabulous stuff. Finally, but not least, we are super excited to welcome Kemp Harris for today's Time for All Ages, and as a special presenter at our one-room schoolhouse, which will be upstairs in room 202 today. Kemp is a singer, actor, teacher, storyteller, and a whole lot more, and a wonderful person who I have had the pleasure of knowing for, I think, at least 3 decades. Oh, my God. I want you to know that his group, the Kemp Harris Band, is going to be coming to First Parish next fall on Saturday night, November 16th, for a special concert and a family dinner. So it's not too early to take your calendars out and put that date in there. You'll be seeing more about that. Consider this the tiniest of tastes of what Kemp Harris is all about. I'm very, very pleased to introduce our friend Kemp Harris for our Time for All Ages.
Before I have some brief words I like to say, I'm going to go back to that extraordinary poet, Bob Dylan. And if you know of this song, when I get to the choruses, if you feel like it, please sing along. I know you people do that a lot, and I know you know harmonies, the whole deal. So, but I'm just going to do this just so you know what song I'm planning on playing. I see my light come shining from the west down towards the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. I'm gonna make you do that one time with me. You ready? I see my light come shining from the west down towards the east. From the west down towards the east. Any day now. Any day now. Any day now. I shall be released. That song came to mind because I have been teaching in the city of Newton. I taught kindergarten, first grade for about 38 years full-time. I tried to retire 5 years ago. My principal would not let me, and so I show up 2.5 days a week as an ISS aide, and so I get to see classes K through 5. I've been the phys ed teacher, the librarian, the art teacher, the music teacher. I've not been the school nurse, but that could be coming, I'm not sure. But one of the things that I get to do is every year in the 4th grade, they study the civil rights movement. And one of the teachers there, Lauren Commando, always has me come in to talk with the kids about my experiences being born in 1952 in a small southern town called Edenton, North Carolina. And I wrote an album about this look back at this childhood place that I grew up in. But I talk with the kids about the fact that I remember the signs that said colored only, that said white only. I remember going to just certain parts of stores or certain stores in general where you would wait at the bus stop, and I would talk with the kids about my experiences. And I told them that one of my most vivid memories was going to the movie theater. And you would go to the theater and you would buy a ticket at the front ticket stand there. And then you would take your ticket, you would go back outside, you would go down the side alley, you would walk down the alley, you would climb the fire escape because black folks are only allowed to sit in the balcony. As a kid, I thought that was cool because I thought balcony, wow, that's great. I had no idea. No, you're there because that's the only place you can be. So I talked with the kids about what it was like at that time, and I would get the usual questions from the students. And they'd want to know, did you know Martin Luther King? It's like, I didn't know him, but I remember when he was around. Do you remember the day he got shot? I do. Do you know John Kennedy? I don't know him, but yes, I do remember when he got. Do you know Bobby Kennedy? Yes, I do. Or I remember all these things. So we would have these, these really interesting conversations, and I was just so impressed with the knowledge that these kids had about the civil rights movement and all the various times and the people there. And generally, that's the way that it would go. But this one particular year, there's a little girl. Her name was Gigi. And Gigi was not asking me the usual questions. Gigi was sitting by herself, and she had her head down. And all the other kids were asking me these questions, but Gigi was just sitting with her head down, and her shoulders were moving. And so I went over and I said, Gigi, what's going on? And she looked up, and she was completely sobbing. I mean, she could not control herself, just sobbing. Her teacher came over, Gigi, what's going on? She couldn't even speak. And so I said, it's okay, Gigi, things are changing. We still have work to do, but things are changing. So, it's going to be better. Things are going to be better. And she looked up, and I'll never forget, and she streamed down her face, and she looked up and she said, but it's not fair. It's not fair that they did this to you. And at that moment, I broke into tears. Her teacher broke into tears. Half the class is crying. The principal walks in like, what the hell is going on? So we sort of talked that through, but I left that situation with Gigi. And what I walked away from Gigi with that day was that, one, things are not always fair. And I understand that. And you try to tell kids that things aren't fair, but we work to try to make them fair, regardless of what's happening. The other thing that I walked away with was knowing that sometimes it's just good to let go. There's nothing like a good cry to get it all out. The class was fabulous for the rest of the day. I don't know what plans they had of any mischief, but they were just awesome. The other thing that I walked away from that situation with was knowing how important it is to know, to meet, to engage, to befriend the other. And I realized how important that whole civil rights lesson that they had been studying for over a month, but that moment sort of cemented for Gigi. I heard it, I read it, I've heard about it, but I know you. And she was so hurt that they did this to me. And I thought, maybe that's what we all, in whatever way we can, know the other, so that the other is not the other, but the other is us. And I thank Gigi for that to this day. She's now in middle school, but when I see her, I always remember that day. And I think the reason I want to sing this song, because I think with everything that's going on, one of these days, we shall be released. We shall be. They say everything can be replaced, that every distance is not near. So I remember every face of every man who put me here. Sing it with me. I see my light come shining from the west down towards the east. But any day now, I shall be released. They say everybody needs protection. They say everybody's got to fall. I swear I see my own reflection somewhere far beyond these walls, yeah, I see my light come shining from the west down towards the east. But any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Now yonder stands there in that lonely crowd a man who swears he's not to blame. But every day I hear him crying out so loud. He's crying out that he's been framed. Oh, but I see my light come shining from the west down towards the east. But any day now, any day now, I shall be released. I see my light come shining from the west down towards the east. But any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Thank you.
And now children and youth are invited to come with Kemp and me. We're going to go upstairs to room 202 for our one-room schoolhouse. And please join in singing Spirit of Love.
This is a community where we share those joys to amplify them and share those heartaches so that they may be a little lighter on our hearts by being shared. And this too is a place where we share from our abundance with generosity so that this community may be sustained financially as well. Please give to this morning's offering. Mother's Day is complicated. We've touched on that a bit, on the ways that it can be personally and interpersonally complicated, spoken of the many different relationships individuals might have with their own mother or with their own potential for or lived experience of motherhood. And then in addition to all of that personal complexity and interpersonal complexity, there's our culture. There's the romanticization of the mother and all those expectations that we put onto this feminized role of being so nurturing and loving and basically a saint. And then there's the gender binary nature of the parental holidays, the Mother's Day and the Father's Day, that leaves out many people, the Maddies and the Babas and the people who are in between, not to mention the families that have to struggle with whether they double up on Mother's Day or double up on Father's Day, or they do one parent on each day. And especially in these times, as was already mentioned at the candle stand, when we host a mother who is separated from her family, when we know that there are laws being passed in other states forcing motherhood upon people who do not want that to be forced upon their bodies. It's a complicated time. And there are beautiful things about this complicated time and beautiful celebrations. There's the National Bailout Collective and their annual Mother's Day campaign, very active again this year with their hashtag Free Black Mamas, when they go around bailing black women out of jail so they can be with their kids on Mother's Day. It's a beautiful thing. There's the hard and the beautiful, and that's how it is with most things, I think. I certainly remember that being true from my first week as a mother. I remember walking out onto the balcony, maybe it was day 3 or 4, and looking out at the backyard and some combination of sleep deprivation and hormonal shifts, thinking that nothing really seemed real, and I didn't know if those trees were really trees, and I thought, what have I done? I can never escape. It felt like a different kind of trapped at the time, not being able to sleep through the night and being the only food source for a little tiny creature. It was a certain kind of responsibility. And even as I was miserable in a way I don't think I've ever experienced, I also had this love, this all-consuming wonder at this little tiny human animal, so strange and amazing in my house. You know, it did get better. It didn't take very long before I started to get used to the sleep deprivation and the hormones leveled out a little bit, and, you know, here I am. And she's 3, and she's really mostly a lot of fun. But I have to say, at the same time, even though Moira is the most delightful, joyful person I know, I still don't really like parenting. And I found it very comforting when I Googled this topic and discovered an article that is titled, "I Love My Kids, but I Don't Like Parenting, and I Know I'm Not Alone," by Liz Krieger. This is how she begins her article. "The first time I said it out loud, I was alone in the bathroom at home. It was early evening, the witching hour. And nothing about parenting my 2 kids, ages 8 and 4, was going remotely well. But it was more than just a rough night. It was a stark and deeply unpleasant sense that there had been many nights like this, and there would be many more to come. In that moment of fluorescent-lit honesty, I finally admitted it, choking back tears. I hate this. The second time I was talking with a mom after school drop-off, moaning about some particularly frustrating phase that one of our then toddlers was going through. We weren't particularly close, but somehow I felt like she was a kindred spirit. Sometimes I really don't like parenting, I confided. I love my kids, but parenting? Most of what it actually involves? I don't think I like it. I braced for possible judgment, but instead, oh my God, me too. I'm so glad you told me that. I thought I was a monster. And I can relate to that. Like the woman in the article, I love Moira, and I don't like parenting. And I was afraid to admit it. I was afraid of the judgment of others, of course, but I was also afraid about what it says about me as a person. Am I so uniquely unloving and selfish? And also, am I really so bad at predicting myself? I mean, I did this on purpose. I wanted to be a mom for as long as I could remember. I spent 3 different summers doing childcare full-time for other families. I thought I knew a thing or two about this gig, but it really was not the same. And it made me wonder about other things about myself and other predictions I had made about what I wanted to do with my life. Was I also going to hate parish ministry? Spoiler alert, I don't hate it. But it is easy, I think, for our sense of shame about our experiences to cause us to question our identity, our personhood, and who we are. And I think it's because of that sense of shame and questioning that more people are not more frank, like this mom was, about not enjoying the difficult parts of parenting. And really, there's a lot to not enjoy, even with all the joy. I saw another article that said, parenting is all joy and no fun. And I thought that kind of rang true to me in some ways. I think it gets more fun as they get older, but in the early end, it's really a lot of joy and not as much fun. But it's not just parenting, right? It's not just parenting that is full of joy and also full of hard things. It's so many things in our lives. And I've noticed that, of course, in many places, but the other place I've noticed it most in my life has been in my organizing work. I've noticed that in my organizing work for justice, that's a place where I find deep meaning, connection, and joy, and also find it so darn hard. I know I'm not alone in that either. A couple months ago, we were on our weekly check-in call for the Immigration Accompaniment Network that I'm part of, and many of the organizers get on the phone together every Wednesday morning to check in on how things are going, different cases, different things we should be thinking about. And the young paralegal who runs our legal team, he was really new to our team, and he was just doing a fantastic job, and we were all just so thrilled that he had come and blessed us with his skills. And one morning he said, "You guys, I'm really sorry, but I'm kind of dropping some balls, and I'm getting a little behind. I'm kind of overwhelmed by work, and I don't really know if I can do this as well as I've been doing it, and I'm really sorry." And one by one, every single person on the call said, "Oh my gosh, don't worry. We've all been there. That's how this work is. You're okay. It's okay." But I could understand his guilt at not being able to stay in the zone he wanted to stay in of, this work is so important and I will do it. The fact that he was starting to get pressed in by his life and by the challenges of the work, it made him feel guilty. And I've been there too. I've thought about it actually in parenting as well, a feeling sort of what right have I to be having a hard time? I mean, really, I'm parenting on easy mode. I've got a very cooperative, healthy kid, and I've got a partner who really does the bulk of the parenting. I've got housemates who live with us in a wonderful community. I've got financial resources. I could go on and on. There's so many things that make my life in general easier and my parenting life easier. And I was feeling that way too in the organizing work I was doing. Whenever I would set aside time for myself and not attend to some urgent task, I thought, how can I do that? They're in jail and I'm out here. I can do anything I want, eat anything I want, sleep in my bed, and I'm not prioritizing the person who's stuck in jail? That guilt can mute both the negative and the positive aspects of our life, I think. It can mute the negative because we start to try to squish it away because we don't want to admit the negative. We want to say that we're doing fine with it all. And it can mute the positive because we might feel guilty feeling happy if we're aware of how much easier we have it as a parent or in our job or in our community. And it's kind of a tricky thing because I think comparison is both a blessing and a curse. The comparison is important. It's good for us to look at reality, see where we're situated, and do something about that unfairness that Kemp was talking about. Because much of the suffering in this world is man-made and we could fix it. So it's good to see, hey, I have a lot going for me and I should do something about that. Or, hey, it's really unfair that I'm suffering in this way and I should do something about that. But at the same time, the comparison, when we use it to squash our own experiences, feelings, and emotions, is unhelpful. It flattens life. And instead of enhancing our ability to change, I think it makes it harder. One of the other ways we sort of try to flatten or resolve that tension between the wonderful and the terrible in life is to try to make sure the story has a happy ending. And I know that I am absolutely guilty of this. There's a story that I have told both in a reflection that I did for the Sanctuary Boston, which is a worshiping community, and that I've told casually and interpersonally about someone I supported through Beyond this network. And we'll call her Elle. She had been left by the side of the road at South Station by Immigration and Customs Enforcement when her family paid her bond to get her out of jail. She didn't know where she was or how to get home. And luckily, her aunt figured out through a lawyer to call me. And soon I was able to get a friend to go pick her up, and she stayed at my house for a couple nights. And we spent an entire day going all over the city, trying with flights and plane tickets, trying to retrieve documents, trying to get her set up with some new clothes so she could take a shower and change into something. And it was all in Spanish, and I had Moira with me the whole time. And by the end of the day, I was just completely fried. And I went and I was talking to my best friend, telling her, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. This is exhausting. But as I tell the story, we were able to get her back to her family in Texas. And when I got that phone call from her, calling me saying, I made it, I'm with my family now, it felt so worth it. And that's where I like to leave the ending. But that's not really the ending. The ending is that a few months later, her lawyer contacted me and explained that somehow there had been a problem. The change of venue had never happened. She was scheduled for court in Boston, and she missed it because she was in Texas, and there was nothing to do legally at that point. The story doesn't have a happy ending, and I hate that, and so I leave that part out. And I think it's really understandable that we try to do that. It actually makes me think of the story Kemp told about the girl crying about the injustice of the past and the impulse to say, it's better now, and we're working on it, and things are getting better. And that's true. And also, my God, how awful. It is good to cry about the extreme injustice in our society. In exploring this topic of holding the worst and the best together, I stumbled across a concept with which I was very vaguely familiar, which is the Hegelian dialectic. So Hegel, the philosopher, had this concept that many people later drew on, including Karl Marx, that you have a thesis, an antithesis, and through the interaction between these two, you can get to a synthesis. There's some argument, some counter-argument, and as you put those in communication, you get to something even better. And that's a great idea, and it's true a lot of the time. I'm not knocking the Hegelian dialectic. But I think in terms of these emotional experiences, it's more like what Peter Elbow says, the man I quoted on the Thought to Ponder. And he says this: "The lesser noted but older tradition of binary thinking that I am calling on used the term dialectic long before Hegel. This tradition sees value in accepting, putting up with, indeed seeking the non-resolution of the two terms, not feeling that the opposite must somehow be reconciled, not feeling that the itch must be scratched." And I really want to reconcile. I want to scratch that itch, find the master narrative, the happy ending. But actually, Liz Krieger, the woman writing the parenting article, pretty much says the same thing. She says, "After talking to so many women, mothers and experts alike, I've come to realize that how you feel about parenting is about being able to accept incongruity. It's about the radical notion that two opposing ideas can coexist at the same time, that you can love your kids to the end of the earth while simultaneously hating a lot of the day-to-day slog of mothering." And I think that is true of so many of the unresolved tensions in our life. It might be in a relationship, it might be in a community, it might even be right here at church, where there are things that you both love and hate that simply cannot be reconciled, must just be accepted. These unresolved tensions, I find, while I so want to do away with them, are a place of deep meaning. And it's not the meaning of the romanticized narrative, it's the meaning of being fully human and fully alive. I think that to say yes to this unresolved tension is to say yes to life. So may we keep saying yes to life. I invite you to join in our closing hymn. It is number 6 in your gray hymnal. Yes to life that contains the wonderful and terrible. Yes to the truth of our actual experiences, unfiltered by shame or guilt. And yes to love for ourselves and one another as we muddle through this life.